Hey everybody. Hi, it's Elizabeth. This is Talk to Me Tuesday well, it's actually Wednesday today. I missed Tuesday, April 24th, 2019. And this is the second cat to introduce you to, also our middle cat out of three. His name is Oscar. See? He is, we don't want to say it loud enough for the other cats to hear, but he's our favorite. And he doesn't seem to really want to be held. So say hello and we'll let him go. Oscar's sort of our our baby for a lot of reasons. When he was about a little over a year old, he had this really strange hip problem. Apparently this happens in human children as well. Occasionally, obviously, it's rare, where in the hip joint, the ball doesn't have working blood vessels in it that normally would, and so it can crumble and disintegrate. So he had this where one day he sort of jumped down from a high height and both of his hip joints crumbled like that. And it was rare enough and unusual enough. One of our best friends, is our veterinarian, and she had no idea what was wrong with them. And you know how stoic cats are. He was just sort of walking funny, didn't make a loud noise, didn't continue to meow, nothing like that. But we were still very worried about him. A couple days later, kind of kept taking him back. We had to get to the specialist, and they eventually figured out what it was. And there is a surgery that can help clear it out and make way for them to basically just regrow their own hip bones all over again. And so he was young enough, we never really thought we'd spend that much on a cat, but of course he had his whole life ahead of him, and we were suckers because he's pretty freaking adorable. So we gave him the surgery, and he grew, got completely better and has thrived entirely. And he's sort of our cat with the strongest personality. He's the cat that is the loudest and meows a lot out loud and asks for things. So we're really glad for that. Well, several years later, at a point in between then, we had moved somewhere with a nice neighborhood, and we started letting the cats outside if they wanted to go out, and they were indoor-outdoor cats for a while, until this same cat, Oscar, got shot. So it was, he just basically went missing, didn't come home. A couple days later, we of course panicked and looked and tried to do all kinds of things to find him with no luck. But a couple days later, he did come back on his own. And we didn't even think anything was wrong with him. He was a little lethargic, but he'd been tired, and, we thought he would be fine. But another couple of days later, he clearly wasn't really eating, and he was lethargic and not feeling well and not grooming as much. So when we took him in, he had been shot with a pellet gun, like a real lead pellet, not just a BB. And it had gone in one side of his body, just sort of in the torso, and straight through several windings of intestine. Didn't hit any other, even more important organs, luckily, and it sort of lodged in the skin and the muscle wall on the other side. It didn't make it all the way back out. So we had to have another surgery for him because we're suckers again, and just can't live without him, and couldn't stand to make the opposite choice. So he survived that assassination attempt, and all our cats are indoor cats now, 100%, because we're afraid, and at first I joked about it and said, well, we can't let them out while I'm still paying for the surgery from Oscar's, getting shot. But then even when we paid that off, we have to be strong. Although Oscar would go out, and he, loves to go outside, is dying to go outside. Anytime we have the windows open or the doors open, he's just meowing and screaming to be outside. So anyway, there's a long cat story you didn't even need to know. So I've gotten a little bit better camera, and you're turned around to a little different direction. So that's the other side of my room from what you're normally seeing. I'm sorry I missed a week. I didn't really get any sewing done in that week to speak of. and it was just busy. You know how it is, the weather in the spring. We're trying to clean up the yard and get things done. So I didn't get any sewing done. I didn't have anything to report on, and and also we had a lot of social family things, so I didn't have time to comment on people's videos, or I watched most of them, but so hopefully this week will be much better. So sewing wise, I have kind of just the same stuff as usual. I have some Star Trek progress. I did this guy. This is the caretaker array from the Deep Space 9 row, and there's some optional embroidery I can add. I think I might just try to do it with stitching on my sewing machine. We'll see. I really don't enjoy handwork at all, so and I have an embroidery machine, but programming that seems like a lot of work. So I might just stick it onto the sewing machine foot. It's mostly kind of straight lines with at angles, you know, so I don't even think it requires free motion. I think it could just stitch a few stitches, turn, and stitch a couple more to make it. So or I do have you know, the permanent like Pigma pens, so I could do that too maybe. But I do think some of the lines would help on this. It's all just one fabric. It really not very defined. So I think that will help. So I'll probably figure something out on that, but that one is done. And I also did the Borg sphere. I'm sorry, and I don't know what I said. I may have said Deep Space 9 row. This is all to do with the 4th row, which is the Voyager series. Sorry. So this is the Borg sphere from the Voyager series. I think it turned out pretty good. I like it. And I love how easy these are coming together. The designer, I don't remember which one did this row. They're all so good. I'm just so impressed. And this is Voyager, the Voyager ship itself. This one also has some optional lines you can add to help give a little more definition to the ship, so I might do that. But this one looks pretty good already, I think, so it's certainly pretty clear what it is, that it's a ship, and which ship if you're a nerd and you watch the show. So that's my Star Trek progress. And then this Saturday, the most recent Saturday, my one buddy that's a sewing buddy, she's really mainly a knitter on her own. I don't knit though, but we do sew a little bit together, and so we get together every so often and have what we call a Murphy Girl Craft Day. That's our last name. So we had a Murphy Girl Craft Day, and she wanted to learn how to paper piece. But of course I wasn't going to do something as complicated as these guys with her. So when I had her over, in order to have her over, I had wanted to pull out a simple paper piecing pattern. And so I have this one called Shirts by Carolyn Friedlander. It's a Carolyn Friedlander pattern, and it makes those little like Hawaiian camp shirts. Oh, sorry, I should have had this ready, you guys. But here you go. Here's sort of what the cover of the pattern looks like. I don't know if you can see that very well. It's, you know, little shirts. Aren't they cute? It's just super simple. So I had gotten it because my husband wears Hawaiian shirts basically almost any time he possibly can. That's sort of his uniform, sort of the go in your closet, throw something on, you know, that's what he will have. So I thought it would be cute maybe to make a quilt of little Hawaiian shirts. So I had made one once. This is I think it's about 6-inch. Yeah, it's 6 inches size, so that's the standard size of the pattern. And I made this one, which is turned out pretty adorable, super easy paper piecing pattern. And then I had thought how long it would take to make a quilt with all those little squares. So I tried blowing up the pattern. This is 200%. This is just sort of blown up on the copier 200%. And it doesn't look nearly as cute because proportionally, or maybe I just picked a bad print, right? This is a really tiny pattern, you know, on the fabric, and maybe if it had a larger scale pattern, it would look better in the large size. But also it might just be the proportions are not gonna expand well just from being blown up on your copier. So I didn't really like that, and thought I would stick with the small size. But then I never just did anymore after that, just because other projects took sway. So that's been a few years. But when I pulled it back out, I did, in fact, that day, Saturday, when I was teaching her, do one. So here's the second shirt I've made for that. Pretty cute. Pretty happy with it. And now that it's out, I don't know. They're so cute and easy to do. They don't take very long. I might get going on that. We'll see. And I think that's all I have to report. That's all my sewing progress this week. But there, I'm sure, will be more to talk about next week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I don't have anything else important in life to talk about. So I hope you guys are all doing really well, and I look forward to watching everybody's videos.